All right, so get this right. Today we're going deep, like really deep, into the world of modern movies, like how they make them these days.
Yeah, yeah, it's wild out
I
there.
mean, everyone knows our attention spans. They're not exactly what they used to be, right?
Definitely not. Like, way back when, people would just sit there, for hours watching these massive, epic
Right,
films.
these like 3-hour-long
Well,
masterpieces.
like now, it's all about bam, 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 give me the good stuff fast.
And that's what this deep dive is all about. Like, how are our brains, our like super wired, constantly connected brains affecting the way movies are being made?
Yeah, are we like sacrificing good storytelling, like the really deep, meaningful stuff for just a quick, dopamine rush?
Okay, so before we like go total film snob on everyone, let's get everyone up to speed, set the stage a bit.
Okay, yeah, good idea.
So there's this term, I don't know if you've heard it, it's called real films.
Oh, real films, yeah.
And no, it's not about like those old school film reels, the ones they used to use in the old days.
Yeah, definitely not.
This is something else, something newer.
Yeah, much newer.
It's like think about TikTok, right?
Okay.
And those reels on Instagram.
Right, right.
It's kind of like movies made for that whole like short attention span generation.
Exactly. Like if those short videos, the TikToks and the Reels were like, movies.
Yeah, it's all about those short, impactful moments like boom, hit you with something powerful and then on to the next thing.
Yeah, super visual, fast cuts, tons of information packed into like a few seconds.
Okay, so you know that movie Animal?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It's a good example of this whole thing, the whole real film thing.
Oh, definitely.
Like the movie, it throws a lot at you, metaphors, politics, family trauma. It's like, whoa, hold on.
And the editing, I swear it's like they sped it up in post-production or
I
something.
know, it's so fast it like makes your head spin. It's fun, it's entertaining, but
But you do kind of wonder, like, are you actually getting anything out of it?
right. Like, are we like really thinking about what we're watching or are we just kind of like getting these little jolts of excitement and then poof, it's gone?
Totally. It's like, are we just getting those dopamine hits from the flashy visuals and the like catchy dialogue?
And Animal isn't the only one. Like, think about Jiawan, right?
Okay, yeah.
I mean, those Bakar Admi scenes, they were like everywhere on social media.
Oh, totally. Everyone was sharing them.
Yeah, but like, did those scenes, like, did they make the movie better? Like a better story, a more memorable movie?
That's a good question. Or were they just like really well made for, going viral? Like that's all they were for.
It's almost like, it's like comparing a really good meal, like something a chef spent hours making,
Yeah.
to,
To fast food.
yeah, fast food, exactly.
It's a perfect analogy.
Right. Like fast food, it's good.
Yeah.
You eat it, it tastes good, it's easy, but
But it's not exactly like a nourishing, satisfying meal.
exactly. And is that what's happening with these real films? Like, are we sacrificing good cinema, the art of making movies, for just quick, easy entertainment?
I mean, it's definitely something to think about. And it's not just about the content, like the story itself, but also the way it's presented,
Yeah.
like how they make it.
Yeah, yeah.
Like filmmakers, I mean, they're under a lot of pressure these days,
Oh, I bet.
They got to keep our attention, got to make sure we don't get bored, especially with all the other stuff, all the distractions we have these days.
Oh, yeah. My phone is like constantly buzzing with notifications, messages, emails, everything.
Exactly. It's a battle for our attention.
Yeah.
So filmmakers are resorting to what we call engagement farming.
Engagement farming. Okay, what is that?
It's like basically they're using every trick in the book to keep your eyes glued to the screen. Like think rapid cuts, super fast editing, tons of action.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Anything to keep you from like even thinking about getting bored.
So instead of like letting a scene breathe,
Hmm.
like letting the tension build naturally, it's just bam, bam, bam all the time.
Pretty much. And it's interesting because, filmmaker Anurag Kashyap, he had something to say about this.
Oh, really? What did he say?
He said, and I'm paraphrasing here, that filmmakers have gone from being chefs creating art to caterers serving up fast food.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's basically saying that like instead of making these beautiful, complex movies, they're just pumping out like quick and easy stuff.
Yeah, that's kind of his point. He's not, saying it's a good thing or a bad thing necessarily, but
Just like that's the way it is.
yeah, like that's how it is now. To understand what he means, think about the difference between like eating a masala dosa, it's
Right.
like boom, it's there, you eat it, it's gone,
Right.
versus like a slow-cooked meal, something that takes hours to prepare, all those different flavors and textures,
Yeah.
it's a totally different experience.
Yeah, that's true. But, I'm just thinking, like, making a movie that people enjoy, that entertains them, that's got to be a form of art too, right?
Absolutely. It is. And maybe some filmmakers are like chefs, but just, they specialize in a different kind of cuisine.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, like, are we headed for, like, a movie apocalypse? Like, are all the good, thoughtful movies going to disappear?
Or is this just like a natural evolution? Like movies are just changing with the times.
That's a really good question.
Hmm.
And that's exactly what we'll be talking about next. Like, what does the future hold for movies?
Because ultimately, it's not about saying real films are good or bad, but how they're shaping the way movies are made and how we, the audience, how we experience them.
That's a great point. So stay tuned, folks, because we're going to keep diving deep into this whole real film thing.
We're going to get to the bottom of it.
So it feels like we're watching this, like, this tug of war happening in the movie world.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
It's like on one side, you got the traditional filmmakers,
Hmm.
the ones who, like they believe in taking their time, letting a
Wow.
story unfold slowly. Those
Yeah.
movies that really stick with you,
Yeah.
like you think about them for days after you watch them.
Right, right.
And then on the other side, you get this whole new wave of filmmakers who are like all about the internet,
Well, like they're speaking the language of the internet.
Yeah, exactly. They're all about the quick cuts, the memes. They want to make those moments that everyone's going to share online.
And it makes sense in a way, right? Like,
Yeah.
think about how we consume information these days.
Oh, I know. That's great.
It's all like headlines, notifications, sound bites. We're constantly bombarded with stuff.
Ugh, tell me about it. My phone is like a monster.
Right. And so, like, our brains are getting used to processing information super fast.
Yeah, in like little bursts.
Exactly. And that, I think, that kind of spills over into how we watch movies, too. Like, we expect that same kind of instant gratification.
So you're saying that like filmmakers are just trying to keep up with how our brains are changing.
In a way, yeah. Especially, like, the ones working for the big studios,
Oh yeah, they gotta like make those blockbusters.
Exactly. They're under a lot of pressure to make movies that are gonna grab our attention and, like, not let go.
But okay, does that mean we gotta like give up on good stories? On movies that make us think?
That's the big question, right? Can't a movie be both entertaining and, like, thought-provoking?
Yeah, like can't you have those amazing action scenes
Yeah.
and a story that like stays with you?
I think that's the challenge for filmmakers now. They gotta find a way to, like, bridge that gap.
Between like keeping us entertained and making us think.
Exactly. And maybe this whole trend toward real films, maybe it's not a bad thing,
What do you?
Like, maybe it's pushing filmmakers to be more creative, to find new ways to tell stories.
So instead of freaking out about it, we should like embrace it.
Yeah, like, see it as an opportunity.
I like that. So like what kind of new ways are we talking about?
Well, think about, like, interactive storytelling. Video games, choose your own adventure books.
Okay, yeah.
They found ways to, like, keep people engaged by giving them choices, by letting them be a part of the story. Could we do that with movies?
Whoa, that would be wild. Like a movie where the audience gets to decide what happens next.
Right. Or, like, different endings depending on what the audience chooses.
That would be awesome. And what about like technology, like VR, all that stuff?
Oh, yeah, virtual reality, augmented reality.
Could those like change how we watch movies?
I mean, they have the potential, right, to create these super immersive experiences.
Yeah, like instead of just watching the movie, you're like in the movie.
Exactly. Imagine, like, watching a car chase and you can, like, feel the wind in your face, or, you're in a spaceship battling aliens and you can feel the rumble of the engines.
That would be incredible. It's like
Exactly.
the possibilities are kind of endless.
Yeah, and we're just starting to scratch the surface of what we can do with those technologies.
This whole thing, it reminds me of how books have changed over time.
Mm-hmm.
Like way back, it was all about those epic poems,
Like the Odysseys.
and then came those massive novels like War and Peace.
Huge books.
And then like short stories, flash fiction, even poetry changed. Like they started experimenting with different forms.
Yeah, it's all about, like, finding new ways to tell stories.
And it's not like the old ways disappeared, right?
Yeah.
It's just like now we have more options, more ways to experience stories.
Exactly. So maybe we should look at real films the same way. Yeah.
Like not as the end of cinema, but like A new chapter.
Right. A challenge to like push the boundaries of what movies can be.
Okay, I'm starting to like see it differently now. Maybe the next like amazing, unforgettable movie, maybe it'll be a real film, you know?
Wouldn't that be something, a real film that like makes you think, makes you feel, makes you laugh, all in like 90 minutes?
That's a great point. So like, are real films good or bad? I mean, it's not that simple.
It's definitely not. It's way more complicated than that.
Yeah, it's about recognizing like both the good and the bad, the potential problems and the cool things that could happen.
Yeah, we got to be open to new experiences, new ways of telling stories, new ways of like connecting with the audience.
Because like at the end of the day, it's all about, the diversity of voices, different perspectives, different ways of being creative.
It's about like embracing the whole spectrum of what movies can be,
Right.
from the quick, fun stuff to the really deep, epic stuff.
And you know what? This whole conversation, it's not just about movies, you know.
Right.
It's about how we experience the world, how our brains work, how we figure out what's important.
It's like a reflection of our culture, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And that's something to think about. Like even after this deep dive is over, wow. So like starting with movies,
Yeah.
we ended up talking about like everything.
Yeah, it's all connected, right?
Like how our brains work, how the world's changing, all that deep stuff.
Movies are like a mirror, you know,
Yeah.
reflecting back all these things about us, about society.
Okay, so this whole thing has got me thinking. Like what if our attention spans, they just like keep shrinking?
Yeah.
What happens to those movies, the ones that like need you to really pay attention to sit there and think?
Yeah, those slower, more contemplative films.
Exactly. Will people still like watch them?
It makes you wonder, right? Like, will anyone even want to watch a movie like 2001: A Space Odyssey anymore?
Oh man, that's a good example. That movie, it's like it takes its time.
Yeah, it's deliberate. It makes you think.
And it's amazing, but like will people in the future, will they have the patience for that kind of movie?
It's a good question. Will it become like a museum piece, something you read about in a film history book?
You'd be sad, to lose those kinds of movies, the ones that like stick with you, make you question things.
They have this power, you know, because they're not afraid to be quiet, to be ambiguous, to be complex.
Yeah, which is the opposite of how everything is now, right?
Totally. Like everything's got to be fast, instant, in your face.
So are those slower movies doomed? Like, are they just going to fade away?
I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, I think there will always be people who crave that kind of experience.
Like people who want to like challenge themselves, use their brains.
Exactly. But it might take like a conscious effort, you know?
Like we got to like train our brains to slow down.
Kind of, yeah. Like a digital detox for our movie tastes.
I like that. A movie detox. So like what can we do?
Well, we gotta like step outside the algorithm, you know?
Oh yeah, the algorithm. It's always trying to like tell you what to watch.
Right. So we gotta be more proactive. Seek out those movies that are different, the ones that, you know, maybe the algorithm wouldn't recommend.
And be okay with like not always having instant gratification.
Exactly. Like be open to a movie that unfolds slowly, that makes you wait for the payoff.
So it's not about like hating real films.
No, no, not at all.
It's about like finding a balance.
Yeah. Like you can enjoy a quick snack, A&D, a gourmet meal.
Love that analogy. So like we can appreciate both the fast movies and the slow ones.
Exactly. It's about like appreciating the whole spectrum of what movies can be.
And supporting those filmmakers, the ones who are taking risks, trying new things.
The ones who are like pushing the boundaries, making us think, making us feel.
All right, folks. Well, it looks like we've come to the end of our deep dive. We started with movies, but we ended up talking about so much more.
Yeah, like attention spans, technology, the future of art, it's all connected.
And what's really interesting, like this whole conversation, it goes way beyond just movies.
Totally. It's about how we experience the world, you know, how we make sense of things.
Yeah, how we find meaning in this like crazy fast-paced world. And that, my friends, is something worth thinking about. So next time you're picking a movie, ask yourself, what kind of experience do I want? What do I want to get out of this?
And be open to being surprised, you know, challenged, maybe even a little uncomfortable.
Because like sometimes those are the movies that like really stay with you.
Yeah, the ones that change you, make you see the world differently.
That's a great point. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone.
It's been a blast.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep that love of movies alive.